The Low and Slow Barbecue Show is proud to share voices of barbecue people in every role of the barbecue world, from the pit masters to the other people who share their story. This week, we're excited to welcome another one of those great storytellers, Sean Ludwig, aka NYC Barbecue, NYC BBQ. He's the co-founder of the Smoke Sheet. Sean, welcome to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Yeah. We're looking forward to talking to you about the latest news from the Smoke Sheet, your own barbecue journey, including your own barbecue secrets and a secret recipe. And of course, remind everybody listening, you can hear more stories from the barbecue world at lowslowbbqshow.com. That's where we got the blog. We've got all of our podcast episodes. You can also subscribe to the newsletter, deliver the Carolina barbecue news to your inbox every Tuesday morning, bright and early. And of course, that barbecue news brings us back to our guest, the man who knows that where there is smoke, there is fire. And if it bleeds, it not only goes on the smoker, it also leads the news story, right, Sean? So give us the headlines. What's the big news from the Smoke Sheet today?
Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, it bleeds, it leads is important in my heart because I've got a journalism background. We went to University of Missouri and studied journalism, and I know you've got a lot of journalism in your background as well.
Sure.
So it's important both in the journalism and the barbecue.
Yeah.
Very, very important. But thank you so much for having me and to talk a little bit about the Smoke Sheet. And you've actually had my fellow co-founder of the Smoke Sheet, Ryan, on before as well.
Yeah.
And so it's awesome that I had a chance to also come in and speak to you as well. But just as a refresher for those who maybe this is their first time, or maybe they're just, getting a refresher, but the Smoke Sheet is a national barbecue newsletter, and we publish every week. We talk about fresh editorial stories from all around the country. We're not focused on one specific region, but I did grow up in Kansas City, so do still have a lot of love for Kansas City in my heart, but and all over the country, and love telling stories about barbecue. And the Smoke Sheet is this place where we'll talk about recipes. We'll talk about, the biggest headlines. We'll talk about, just interesting things happening all over the country. So, and we appreciate anyone who wants to come join us on that journey. bbqnewsletter.substack.com. And we do, it's a paid model, but we also do a lot of free previews, a lot of free things for people as well. So, so we'd love to have people come join us and participate and be part of the newsletter.
Yeah, and I'm a paid subscriber, and I saw it came out today's Wednesday as we're having this conversation. Today's episode, near and dear to my own heart, all about Carolina barbecue and all the different Carolina barbecue in one place in Charlotte from, another one of our mutual friends, Monk at Barbecue Bros. So, obviously that's kind of the big lead news with the Smoke Sheet right now, but what else is newsy with you guys?
Well, I would just say this is something sort of a more on the personal side of things.
Okay.
But this is, it's a little insidery, but I do think it's important for the context of, we are coming up on 6 years of the Smoke Sheet.
Yeah, wow.
In October.
Yeah,
we've been doing this for a long time, but we moved over to Substack a little more than a year ago because we wanted to make it a little easier for ourselves to make the newsletter and publish it and things like that. But my good colleague, co-founder Ryan, has kind of indefinitely stepped back because of family obligations and a recent death in the family, things like that. So I was just going to say that we welcome contributors, that we have such incredible contributors, yourself included. Yeah. So if anyone likes you, they should be following us as well, right?
Sure.
But we were just going to say that one of the big things right now is trying to expand the number of voices that we have. So obviously, we talk about Carolina barbecue, Texas barbecue, Kansas City barbecue, international barbecue, how-tos, all these kinds of things. So if you're out there and you're like, you've got this itch to scratch when it comes to wanting to write something about barbecue, please get in touch and let's talk about it. So I'm just kind of running the show right now, hoping Ryan comes back once when things kind of settle down on his end. But yeah, this is, I think, really just this is an open, kind of in a way, like an open call to people. Like if you are a barbecue diehard and you've got, you know, a little bit of a writing background, or you just want to try, like, please come talk to us and let's see what we can do, because we really want to open this up and be a platform for lots of barbecue voices, right? We, you know, don't discriminate when it comes to barbecue. We love all kinds of barbecue. And I know you do too. You've got an
Yeah,
appreciation for all kinds, but
sure.
you know, when it comes to it, I think that we are kind of entering this new phase of barbecue where I think people are always looking for something new and exciting and interesting. What's something they haven't explored before? What's
Mm,
an avenue? You know, I know you know this super well, but like the fusion kind of aspect where people are combining, you know, barbecue styles together, or
yeah.
different cuisines into traditional barbecue, so to speak. And we want to see more of that in the writing and videos and stories. And I think just one headline that I even just saw recently was King Barbecue in North Charleston,
Hmm.
South Carolina, is infusion. It's kind of like barbecue, American barbecue and Chinese barbecue
Right.
together,
Yep.
right? And they were just named as one of the 20 top new restaurants for 2024 by Bon
Right.
Appetit, like national publications spotlighting kind of a fusion approach to barbecue and
Mm,
being really open-minded about what barbecue is now, right? That's kind of where we are, is these sort of new school, you know, was kind of adopting like the Franklin barbecue kind of
hmm.
approach to barbecue. And now the new school is fusion and incorporating lots of different styles into that core barbecue. I mean, I think you should still, let's still, you know, have a really great brisket, really great ribs, really great pork. You just, you know, you should have your staples, but let's add in some new other flavors as well.
Yeah, and that's a nice reflection on what it sounds like you're trying to kind of keep going and build on with the smoke sheet is building an eclectic mix, a fusion of all the great barbecue voices that are out there. You know, there are some great ones, you know, well, Robert Moss as well as, you know, Daniel Vaughn, those are the superstars of barbecue voices out there, but there's so many more other people that know about those places on the corner or those fusion shops that maybe get overlooked. You know, people know about King Barbecue in North Charleston, and they know about Paul Meyer, and they know about, you know, some of these other places like Resident Culture that you know, that Monk talked about from Edmar Samoas and his mix of Brazilian and Carolina barbecue styles there is really cool. So, but they may not know about everything going on in other places, and I think that's really cool that you're kind of opening up the doors to get those other voices. And you did mention that, you know, I had the pleasure of writing about Brian Furman and everything he's got going on in Atlanta and kind of his rebirth for you guys, and sharing that story and sharing the story about the Carolina Barbecue Festival. Really cool experience. Enjoyed doing it a lot. So, and just like you say, anybody out there that's got an interest in barbecue, or, you know, want to talk about it, you know, some secrets or some good stuff, stories to tell, hey, it's easier than ever to kind of talk into a microphone and get it into a document and send it off. Hey, we're not talking ourselves out of a job, I hope, Sean. But
I hope
definitely
not.
encourage folks to get involved in doing that kind of stuff. Yeah.
No,
Okay. So let's
100%.
talk. Let me talk to me about NYC BBQ. How is that similar or different, or how does it tie into the smoke sheet and what you're trying to do there?
I think that they're very, very connected at this point. Now, I started NYC BBQ at this point. You're talking about like 10 years ago,
Hmm.
as kind of like a social media kind of guide to the NYC metro of barbecue, which especially think about 10 years ago, was, I think, criminally like underrated, underappreciated. There was a lot happening where things were really percolating, developing. I mean, I know that, you know, big barbecue heads will know that Daniel Vaughn recently published his guide to Texas barbecue outside of Texas,
Right.
and there were four. I would say, kind of, you draw a big circle around New York City. There were four in the tri-state area around New York City that were on that list. I would have concluded probably maybe a few more, but whatever. The point is that the area around New York City has incredible food. Like, the just people travel to New York just for food. So
Hmm.
it makes sense that a culinary capital would also incorporate, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and that includes barbecue. So there have been good barbecue and especially good pop-ups in the New York scene for a long time. I was one who, I grew up in Kansas City. I grew up around barbecue, love barbecue. But when I moved to New York City, I didn't think there was an obvious way to learn about the best barbecue. And so I would start seeking out the best barbecue restaurants. People would be like, "Hey, you're from Kansas City, you know barbecue. Where should I go?"
Yeah.
So instead of just simply word of mouth, I started creating, social media kind of commentary and articles and posts and everything. And so it started as social media, then became a blog. And I still do occasional New York City newsletters as well. But most of my time is focused on the Smoke Sheet because it's national and
Hmm.
weekly. And it's kind of like that's a publishing schedule right there. We've got
Yeah.
every week, I've got an issue to get out to the world and excited about telling these barbecue stories to the world. But the NYC project to me is still a very special part of my heart because telling the stories of the events and the restaurants that are in New York City that are doing interesting things with barbecue. I just was only a few weekends ago at the Pig Island event in New York City. It's in technically Staten Island. That is one of the 5 boroughs of New York City. I know people in New York City, is this Manhattan, right? No, no, no. New York City is 5 distinct boroughs.
Yep.
This event is in Staten Island. Fantastic event where it's so eclectic, so many different kinds of. It's all pork, but
Hmm.
you'll have a little bit of different every kind of pork that you can think of. And it was an amazing event. And I still think New York City has a lot to offer people who want to experience interesting culinary experiences that are barbecue or barbecue adjacent.
Yeah, that's cool. And I saw some of your posts on your Instagram post about the Pig Island event, and our friend Tank from Holy City Hogs was up there. It looked like.
Mhm.
Don't know if you got to rub shoulders with him at all. Yeah, but very cool. How do you feel like what's going on there in the New York City scene differs from what people might find in other places right now? You mentioned the fusion piece, but when you go into one of these events like Pig Island, how does it compare to what people might find somewhere else?
I mean, I think just looking at like the event scene specifically, that you actually not get just New York City, you'll get people again like Tank from around, from around the country. So you'll
Hmm.
people want to come and hang out and compete and be part of something that's bigger. And obviously it's a big media market. There's an
Yeah.
opportunity for exposure and meet new, really interesting people. And I think that part of that's about, people like to come to hang out in New York. So we get a lot of not just locals, we get a lot
Hmm.
of out of towners to come out and celebrate. One of the coolest events is held at Pig Beach. Not to be confused with Pig Island. Pig Beach is a restaurant in Queens, and they do an annual event where they toast and raise money for a fallen pitmaster.
Oh yeah.
And that is the Jeff Mitchner Barbecue Benefit, and that one attracts so many people from all over the country. Probably a lot of folks come up and hang out in New York, and it's part of what makes the New York thing special too. Is you're not just going to experience a taste of local; you're going to get a taste of everything. Because people want to come be part of the experience. So I think that it makes it like if you're ever in New York and there happens to be one of these barbecue events happening, you should go.
Yeah, that's a good point and a good rationalization because I think about the Carolina Barbecue Festival and that we had in Charlotte, and there's a whole bunch of great pitmasters there, and they're from all over North Carolina, maybe some from Virginia or South Carolina, or some other places around the South, maybe somebody from well far out. But yeah, in New York City, it's a big metropolitan city, it's an international place. You're gonna draw a larger variety of pitmasters out to that, so that's definitely a great reason why to check out one of those festivals if you get into the Northeast there. And obviously the Smoke Sheet, you guys try to track some of the events going on, or I can follow that or follow your Instagram or the Smoke Sheet and find out when that stuff's happening.
Yeah, we're keeping tabs on a lot of stuff, and then we'd like to incorporate a lot of event information in our news section. So we used to try to have a little calendar, but the thing
Mhm.
about it is there's just so many events, and so we're trying to be like really specific about the ones that we're talking about and ones that are really interesting to us. And I think the thing is just there's so many barbecue competitions, so you kind of have to pick and choose
Mhm.
between the ones that are sort of the big national ones, the ones that are kind of defining where that world is. So I think that we do incorporate a lot of that throughout the newsletter, in videos and our news sections and stuff like that, and keep really close tabs on what's going on in that world.
Yeah, and it's great content, a lot of variety, good stuff. You learn something every time a new edition comes out. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Sean's barbecue journey. You're from Kansas City. That's your part of the world. So it kind of comes out in the blood when you're living in that part of the world. You can't help but be into it. But, tell me, what really lit your fire about barbecue, about either wanting to cook it or start telling stories about it or taking pictures? What inspired you to do this?
I really think, this kind of draws on something I was kind of talking about earlier, but I moved to New York City in 2008. And I didn't know very many people. Like, I had just graduated from college, is kind of learning my way around. And part of the running around and learning the city was also learning barbecue restaurants, because I wanted to find things that either reminded me of home, like the Kansas City style, or new explorations like Texas style, things like that, things I hadn't had before. And really, it just starts with a little bit of boredom, a little bit of just like looking for things that I hadn't had before. And just, it really, it's a few years of time where I'm learning about the different styles of barbecue. I'm learning who's really got it in this big metro area. And I think that also helped me make friends too, because then you're like, hey, you want to go check out this barbecue place? Hey, I want to go eat some barbecue. So, right. So you're meeting new people, you're exploring the city, you're doing all these things. So I think that it really started with wanting to be an explorer and a documenter, right? It was, that journalism thing, is still part of my blood. I'm not like doing a lot of day-to-day journalism outside of the smoke sheet, but a lot of my, that sort of goes, once you've kind of been a journalist, it's kind of, you're never not a journalist.
Right. Yeah.
And I was just loving the experience of going to these new places, talking to the pit masters, learning about their styles. And the more that I did that, the more I kind of fell in love with the people, the process. And eventually that, I think, led to creating the newsletter and multiple newsletters, really.
Yeah, and I know you've connected with Ryan, along the way there is a big part of the smoke sheet too. And you've also kind of, it's not just New York City now, you've also kind of expanded some of your travels and adventures out further into the country. So, have you got an idea on how many places that you've been to, either, in New York City or at large, any numbers?
I was looking at a map recently, and my estimate is I've eaten barbecue in about 23 to 25 states at
Wow,
this
that's a
point.
good number.
Yeah, so about half of the continental US at this point, I've had some
Uh-huh.
barbecue. There's still spots that I haven't been to, and I'm really bummed that I haven't been to Alabama and Mississippi, for example. They are, and I see your hat, but anyway, a point is I need to. I still have so many places that I want to go to, but whenever I do travel, and just let's say it's travel for something not related to barbecue, I will fit barbecue into that,
Oh yeah.
into that trip. And I will go seek out the best restaurants that I can on that trip. I really think that the travels have been so inspiring and enlightening.
Mm.
Like when I first went to Snow's Barbecue, that really, not only did it started the path for the smoke sheet, because that's where I met Ryan,
Hmm.
but it was like I understood how much history and how much, blood, sweat, and tears went into that, because of how transparent that operation is. You get there really early and you watch everything, and you just fall in love with that process and those people.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very cool. Hey, when you get to go into Alabama, check out the Alabama Barbecue Chase. Of course, reach out to me. I can help you too. But our homies over at
Of
the
course.
Alabama Barbecue Chase does a nice job. He's got a cool website with all the best of Alabama on there. So check that out. So you mentioned Snow's Barbecue. Do you have another most memorable day of barbecue? I won't ask you to pick out the favorite. We've talked about that before, but a most memorable day altogether of barbecue.
I've got a fun one on this one.
Okay.
So I actually got married at a barbecue restaurant. I
Oh,
got
wow.
married at the original Pig Beach location in Brooklyn. Now that
Okay.
location is since closed. They basically they had a lease and the place got sold. Now that that whole area is being turned into condos. Unfortunately, that's the story of New York City. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
but that was an incredible day. The lead chef, pitmaster there, Matt Abdu, has a background not only in barbecue, but also in fine dining, Italian fine dining. So
Oh,
he created a menu that blended Italian fine dining with barbecue. One of the staple items from our wedding, which everyone still raves about, was brisket ravioli. And
oh,
it was
wow.
just amazing. And like
Yeah.
I understand there's probably some traditionalists out there who will be like, this is ridiculous,
Poo poo.
whatever. But if you just open your mind for a second and just think
Yeah.
about tender smoked brisket inside ravioli with a little bit of like sauce on it or something, it was incredible. And I think we had a lot. We had smoked turkey. We had a lot of other items there that were kind of mixed, yeah, playing with those traditions, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's appropriate that I don't wonder how many guests you've had on your show that can say they got married at a barbecue joint, because that's how much I love it and how much I love the people. And it was a heck of a party, my friend. Like that one, we got a really good deal relative to the cost of having a wedding.
In New York
Um,
City.
in
Yeah.
New York City. And so we got a good deal and everyone had an incredible time. I think we really shut that place down the last second we could be there, and then we had to go.
Yeah, well, you got me one up. I had my rehearsal dinner, sort of barbecue catered. So I'm from Alabama, so we had some Dreamland ribs, and my wife from North Carolina, we had her Lexington because her family all comes from Lexington. So we had Alabama and Lexington style barbecue for rehearsal, and then got married and did non-barbecue things. So good stuff. Good stuff. What about forgettable days? It's a good reason for that to be memorable. It's your wedding, it's at a barbecue restaurant. But what about a day you'd like to forget, but you can't in the barbecue world?
I I've been thinking about this one. I'm struggling because I think sometimes even when you go to a restaurant and maybe the food is forgettable, the people may not be, or the
Mm,
experience may not be. And I think that there's a place that I won't name that I went to in North Carolina, and I absolutely loved the history and the learning and the people. I wasn't very impressed by the food, right?
yeah.
And so maybe the food might be forgettable, but the experience and the people may not be, right? And I
Mhm.
think that that does happen. I think that probably happens with just any kind of cuisine that you might have. You might have a great experience, but the food was like, yeah, the food was fine, but the people were amazing.
Yeah.
And that does seem to happen with restaurants. But that's happened to me enough times at this point, in my life that, definitely at least a few of my barbecue travels have been like, I wish the food was a little bit better, but my goodness, the people and the history and all these other things really made this a special trip. And I think that, that's probably happened to a number of people, but it sticks with me that I'm usually going to get something out of that visit,
Yeah, it
no
goes to
matter
show
what.
it's just not about the food. That's not the only thing you're there for. The food's good, and that's kind of what is at the center of it all, but it's not just about the food. You can go and still have a great experience regardless of what is on your plate. Now, you wanna have good food, but you can always find something else good there in that barbecue world. So, yeah, speaking of good, let's get into the barbecue jewels. We're getting a little tight on time here, but I wanna find about your barbecue secret recipe. You came on wanting to talk about that, so let's hear what is your secret barbecue recipe to share with the Low and Slow Barbecue Show audience?
All right. I don't think to me it's kind of like a not so secret recipe because I have written about it, but please go to nycbbq.com and search for my mac and cheese recipe. So that
Okay.
is something I love, macaroni and cheese. And I got so obsessed with one point that I would just try different variations of different noodles and different cheeses and things like that. And you'll see it in my recipe, but I'm a very strong proponent of making sure you incorporate at least 1/3 of your cheese needs to be smoked cheese, because it will really add to the flavor and the profile and make it a unique macaroni and cheese. So sometimes it's hard to find, sometimes not, depending, or maybe you go smoke your own cheese. But the point is go check out my macaroni and cheese recipe on nycbbq.com and give that a read, because I've had enough people now that have told me they've tried it and loved it. So I'm very confident that you'll enjoy it, and feel free to try different cheeses, right? Don't just stick to the same thing each time. Do different cheese blends, and you'll find different things stick out in the flavors.
Find the variety that you like the best. Yeah, we'll check it out. We'll put the link in the blog as well, and share some pictures there when we promote this out in the world. But it's nycbbq.com, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Mac and cheese. So, you mentioned mac and cheese. When you're going out into the barbecue world, is there any one thing that you're looking for to kind of determine, okay, this is a place that they know what they're doing here? Is it mac and cheese, or, maybe a side and a protein? What sets the standard for good when you're on a barbecue restaurant visit?
Well, on the side, mac and cheese number one. That's one of my favorite sides. So I'm always looking for a good one. It not too creamy, not too thick. Like, it needs to be the perfect consistency, has flavor. Sometimes it's okay if there's like little additions, like, something a little crunchy on top or whatever occasionally, but I'm usually like, I don't need that. I just need the core product needs to be good. But macaroni and cheese. But I think, let's get real. Baked beans, I think, really important side. And I think that what I notice about that is I actually don't want it to be too sweet. That's one of my big things. I think too many places will just go overboard on sugar content on their beans, but the beans can speak for themselves and the flavor. So you're making sure that there's some kind of meat, usually like burn ends or pulled pork or some kind of meat, like, to get in there that gives it extra flavor. But I think usually there's a little bit too much sugar. So I'm going to use that as a barometer too when I'm trying the sides. Now, on the meats, at this point, let's get real. Brisket really does tell you a lot about how good a barbecue restaurant is, because so many places serve a similar type of like Texas style brisket these days. And you can really tell if the restaurant is being current with the trend, or if they are not really paying attention. And if that brisket is great and it's, low and slow and been made with love, then I feel confident I'm probably going to like a lot of the other meats that I'm going to try. But if I get into it and it's dry and just doesn't really have a lot of flavor, I'm like, well, they were really hoping that I was going to use the barbecue sauce there, right? But I didn't, because I just tried it straight up.
Right.
And I noticed that, when the brisket's really good, a lot of the meats, usually all the other meats, are really good too. So kind of helps, with that learning.
Yeah, but you don't go and say, well, let me get a brisket and a beans and a mac and cheese, and I'm going to come back and see if I want some more. You kind of got to get it all out there and figure out, I'm going to go all out there. And if it's good, it's good. If it's not, I'm going to enjoy the experience in another way.
You know what, though? Here's the thing, is if it's a place that you could go to again and again, maybe your first visit is trying some of the staples. And then you're like, oh, these guys know what they're doing. I'm going to order a lot more stuff. So depending on your situation. Now, if it's probably the only time I'm ever going to go to this place in my life, I'm going to order a bunch of different stuff and try everything.
Yeah.
But if it's a place that's like local, I'll try just some of the staples and just give it a little sampling and then see how I feel about it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So let's talk about you mentioned those 25 some odd states that you've been to. Are there, and I won't ask the best because it's impossible, I know, to pick a best, but do you have any that are just like all-time lifetimers or exotic that you are super proud of? You mentioned Snows and, a couple other here's along the way, but it's something that's just like your all-time bucket list number one. You're proud you did that.
I think there's two journeys that we did, was with the smoke sheet, that really encapsulate a lot of what I think is special about the barbecue world. So Ryan and I recently did a North Carolina, South Carolina journey, wrote about that in the smoke sheet. And we actually met you and some other folks at John
Yeah.
G's. That is an incredible experience. And it's definitely, a top 10 kind of barbecue experience for me. Such good people, such good food. Everything you're trying is good. You know what I mean? Like it's that
Yeah.
where only a few places I've actually been to where I can feel very confident saying everything I tried was good.
Hmm.
John G's, Franklin,
Yeah.
Snow's, Truth. I think Truth very much belongs in that conversation of where you might try a bite of everything and everything is good.
Hmm.
So I think that, when it comes to those kind of special places, I really think that they're so memorable because the food is just so dang good, but
Mm.
also memorable because the people that you had the food with were great company as well. So
Yeah.
I think, that was a recent experience. You go back to our Houston trip that we had. And, I think Truth was definitely up there for us, that we
Mm.
just loved everything about it. I'm going to just pile on because I know Goldie's is number one or whatever, but I did go and it was amazing. Like
Yeah.
I genuinely, I didn't go with anyone that I knew. I wouldn't have minded, but it happened to be nearby. Then I was like, well, I only got one chance here to like
You
pop
gotta
in.
go.
So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to, coordinate this, so I, had the opportunity to go and spend some time there. And I'm was very impressed. And I know it's no surprise to me that people from the Goldies kind of universe have now gone on to open their own restaurants
Mm.
like Barb's
Hmm.
BQ and things like that. Like it does not surprise me at all that that collection of people that really treat it serious and know what they're doing
Yeah.
have gone on then to open up other restaurants and things like that.
Yeah. So as you're taking these trips that you've shared the nuggets from a couple of them, North Carolina and Houston. I know you've made many others. What's the secret to planning a good barbecue road trip or finding a good barbecue destination when you go to an unfamiliar place?
Well, number one is I think you should talk to people. If you know someone who's going to be, who's lived around there or had a connection to there, you should start by asking people who know what they're talking about a little bit and see what they think. I think that the funny thing is now we're in such a digital age that a lot of folks, even if you're a small restaurant, will be on Instagram or TikTok or some other platform, right? And you can get a little bit of a sense about what they care about, what they're emphasizing from their social media. And I think that this is a weird one to me, but like you can tell even just from the look of the food, maybe not the photos that the restaurant posts, but people who post about the restaurant,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you get a little bit closer look at the food.
Yeah.
And just from the photos, you can tell if the food is good. I know that it's a wild thing to just be like, once you've spent enough time in the barbecue world, you can look
Hmm.
at it and you can go, I know that that's going to be a good bite. Or, it looks okay. Maybe it's something that's overcooked or something. But you can know that by a lot of what people post now. And there's the way that the online community has kind of really opened up and posts about barbecue so much that you can learn so much from people that are posting about barbecue. Talk to your friends, and even like some of the sort of people who've just been around barbecue forever, like our good colleague who writes for us sometimes, John Tanner, is somebody that
Mm.
I would have no problem being like, hey John, have you been to such and such place? And
Right.
he's probably been there because he's
Hmm.
been to so many places. And I think that just making sure you talk to people who love barbecue, who've traveled for barbecue, and they can at least start pointing you in the right direction. Maybe that won't be the exact place you go, but you'll get close.
You've got two young kids. You've got a wife. You got married at a barbecue restaurant. How does your family tolerate your barbecue journey?
Well, I would say that they tolerate is a good word. I will, yeah, of course, I will try to make sure that barbecue gets added on to any trip that we do. I think my wife has been pretty supportive. As long as the whole trip isn't dominated by barbecue, she's like, "All right, we'll go to one place that you really want to go to. We'll
Right.
go pop into this place." And I have so many places pinned all over the country of places that I want to go to. So even if there's an inkling of like, hey, we should go to this place, and I'll be like, hey, we should go to this place because I have this place that's pinned here, this barbecue joint that I need to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, that's the first thing that you tell me every time we're talking about a trip. And she's like, you don't even know, like, I'm like, I don't even have like a good like museum or a good cultural artifact, land site, whatever. Like, I have a barbecue joint, and that's my cultural landmark that I want to go to.
Nothing wrong with that.
And so, but I would say that I have a 2-year-old, and he does enjoy some barbecue. I've got to keep working on him and opening up his mind about different kinds of foods. But, he's 2. I can't really I can't really sell him on, how amazing this is, because he's just like, food? Ooh, okay. Beans.
He'll get there. Give him time. He'll get there. Where do you find the continuing interest in the motivation? We talked about how your fire got lit. How do you keep that fire lit? How do you keep it going now that it's been started?
I think that part of the travel and meeting people and always kind of being, looking for the new thing, I think keeps me going. Like, I genuinely love, information and learning about things. So part of these journeys, is about meeting new people, trying new food, trying new things that, we haven't seen a lot of being done. When I get to go try those things, I'll just speak to a restaurant that is here near me in Brooklyn. Bark Barbecue uses Dominican flavors with Texas barbecue. And I hadn't really experienced that before. So when I started going to some of his first pop-ups, I was like, whoa, this actually is kind of a unique thing. And when I get to go try those things that I've never tried before, that's what's going to keep me going, is the pursuit of the new shiny thing.
Yeah.
But I still love going to all the, places that I love. Right. But I was still, I'm always looking for around the corner for the next new thing that is going to really impress me.
Very good. Let's take it to the low and slow showdown here. The last little bit of our time, just some quick hitters, 1-word questions and answers to get through. First of all, the name of the barbecue joint that you grew up on.
Smokehouse Barbecue.
What is your current barbecue go-to?
Bark Barbecue.
Your favorite protein to eat? Pork, beef, chicken, turkey, or something else?
Beef.
You've mentioned your 2 favorite sides already, macaroni and cheese and baked beans. What's after that?
I'm going to go with,
it doesn't matter. You're not going to order it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I don't have to study the menu. I'll go with potato salad.
What is the best state in these United States for barbecue?
Texas.
That's fine. That's an unbiased opinion from New York City. That's okay. Best North Carolina barbecue style: Eastern, Western, Lexington, or mustard from South Carolina?
Eastern.
Why?
I think I've had it the most, and I've just really fallen for that vinegar style, and also some of the best whole hog joints that I've been to.
Yeah,
are just it's so steeped in Eastern tradition, and now that I've been to several of those places, it's very fond for me, and I love that style so much.
You can't go wrong there. So hey, you answered this earlier, but I'll ask anyway. Sauce, is it better with or without?
I say it's better without, but I'll use a caveat that I have no problem with adding sauce after I've tried it with the sauce, right?
Yeah.
And I have so many, I know people who make sauce. I love sauce, and I think that keep adding your sauce to your barbecue, but try it without it and see how it is without it.
And then have it with it. It's another layer, another experience, something else around the corner. What's your favorite non-barbecue meal?
Favorite non-barbecue meal is probably Well, love Italian dishes, so probably something like lasagna or a good like a good pasta dish or something like that. But I love like all food, I think at this point, but I've had a lot of amazing Italian dishes and actually eaten food in Italy as well, and love that cuisine. So who doesn't like carbs, right?
Yeah, for sure. So the hardest question, most important answer, is barbecue a verb or a noun?
I say it is a noun. I think you should really, keep it as it is a topic, it is a style, there's so much to it as encompassed as a noun versus just being a verb.
And that, my friends, is the lowdown from Sean Ludwig, aka NYC BBQ, co-founder of the Smoke Sheet. Sean, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show on the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. Be sure to visit us online at lowslowbbqshow.com. That's where you'll find the blog. You can hear other podcast episodes as well. And of course, if you like what you hear, give us a 5-star rating. That helps other people find the podcast too. Remember, visit lowslowbbqshow.com. You can subscribe to the Lowdown newsletter. We'll send the latest blogs, podcasts, Carolina barbecue news, and events all directly to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. Special thanks to our guest, Sean Ludwig, as well as our producer, Andrew Moose, and the whole team at the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. Most especially, thank you for listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Remember, for the best barbecue and the best barbecue podcast, make it low and slow.